Fisherman's Post. More fish, more often.
Hello and welcome to the Fisherman's Post Saltwater Podcast Series. This episode is titled High Speed and Meat Options for Wahoo. I'm going to be talking with Captain Ben Morris of Southern Run Fishing Charters out of the Wrightsville Beach area. We're going to be covering such areas as how to locate Wahoo, and then terminal tackle for meat options, terminal tackle and techniques for meat options, terminal tackle and techniques for high speed, and we're going to move forward with that. My name is Gary Hurley of Fisherman's Post. Fisherman's Post has been serving the saltwater fishing community since 2003. We've been bringing you fishing reports, fishing information, fishing tournaments, fishing schools, and here in our latest and greatest effort, the podcast series where we reach out to our captain and guide friends from up and down the North Carolina coast and ask them to share with us their thoughts, their insights, their knowledge on how to catch more fish more often. In this endeavor, I am joined by my podcast partner, Billy Thorpe of Thorpe Creative. Hello, Billy. Let's talk some Wahoo.
What's up, Gary? I'm excited, man. I'm excited to jump in and learn all about Wahoo fishing. It's gonna be good. So, yeah, it's gonna be good, man. I'm excited. I'm even pre-show conversation, just talking about some boats was getting me going. So, not that I can afford the boats that you
Check
need.
the bank account. Check the bank account
right.
while I'm talking to Ben.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'll check it.
Come up with a number at the conclusion of the show.
Yeah, somebody could just let me borrow some of the zeros to add to the end. That'd be great. I'm good for it. I pay you back. I promise. These sponsors take care of us so well. I will buy. I'll take care of it anyway. Oh man. So yeah, I'm excited, Gary. Good to see you again, man. And do want to shout out to our sponsors. So I'll kind of get through this. Our sponsors. So our first one up is SRD20. You can see them on the screen. So SRD20.com. So they have sent us a couple of different products. And then, Gary, I just got notification they're sending us another product on the way. So we'll be able to show it pretty soon. But we are featuring the waterless wash and wax, and then also the graphene coating and protectant spray for your ceramic on your boat there. So I know he sent us over a couple, and neither one of us has got a chance to try it yet, but I've got good reviews and on Amazon and on their website as well. So excited.
Yeah, I'm close. I'm close to using that graphene spray. Again, my vision is more to use it in the spring, just to sort of set up for the year ahead. You know, we're still using the boat. The boat's still in the water right now, and I'm still doing my cheap bleach wash. Well, I mean, just normal wash. Once in a while, a bleach wash. But it is on my list to start being more nice to my boat in 2023, and a big part of that is going to be graphene spray and replacing the waxing, which I just won't do. It's just too much work for me, too much time for me. I need a simpler solution, and that's SRD20 graphene spray.
Boom! So if it shouldn't be hard work. That's their tagline. So there you go. I don't know what else you could say more about the product. Shouldn't be hard work. So go ahead and go to SRD20.com and get you some of that. And then also, Gary, we have our long-running sponsor, Marine Warehouse. I'm going to play a little spot from them, and then we'll come back and figure out where in the world is Emmett.
At Marine Warehouse, we have everything from trailer parts, engines, engine parts, new boats, boat parts, a full store. We have a service department. We are your one-stop shop for marine equipment and hardware.
We offer a wide variety of parts and accessories for all your marine needs. The best part about working at Marine Warehouse Center is to help customers really get the most out of their coastal lifestyle and share our love for the water.
At Marine Warehouse, we're here to get you out on the water because of our love for the water. We like being out there, and we want you out there with us.
Boom, there you go, man. There you go. Good time to get your boat. They're doing service sales. You know what? Buy yourself a new boat for the holidays. There we go. Got a lot of holidays coming up. Just buy yourself a new boat.
Well, I'll tell you what comes to my mind in watching that commercial, because I've had several conversations over the last week or so. Man, get your trailer tuned up. Don't wait and for a weather event when you have to pull your boat out of the water for, voluntary, involuntary, and then having trailer issues. Go ahead and get your trailer tuned up before the hurricane season or before you pull it for the winter. Like, get that trailer tuned up, man. So many of my friends had not major issues, not like boat on the side of the road or anything, but, wheels, flat tires, just anyway, several issues like, why not put it in? I mean, that's what I do. I mean, to say what I do in the summer before the hurricane season, I have them take a look at the trailer and just say, am I cool? And
Yeah.
this year we did a little bit of work to the trailer. The year before, I was cool. Next year, I don't know yet.
Next year, I'm going to buy a new trailer.
No.
Oh, man. Well, dude, I tell you what, Emmett has been... All right, Gary, and Emmett has been on the move once again. He is a pretty festive dude, so that's your first hint in trying to figure out where in the world is Emmett. He is at a festive event, so that's the first place, or the first hint. Any guesses in this season that we're in? What kind of event that he would be participating in?
He's at a turkey farm.
A turkey farm. That's a pretty good guess, but no, not a turkey
He's
farm.
at a trick-or-treat. He's trick-or-treating.
No, I mean, maybe.
A pumpkin patch.
Maybe after this. Maybe after he's at the Halloween party with his friends. He's there hanging out with Medusa. He is dressed up like Dracula, looking fresh. Look at it. Still wearing
That doesn't
the
look
hat.
like his wife. Wait a second.
It's a friend. It's a friend
Or a
of the
daughter. That
family.
doesn't look like a wife or a daughter.
I don't. Well, you know what? I'm going to get off that picture before we make any more accusations and lose a sponsor here. Anyway, he's dressing up like Dracula for Halloween, getting those Halloween parties in earlier than later. So if you guys see Emmett out, make sure, especially if you see him at a Halloween party, no one has snapped a picture and sent it to us. So I'm really curious. I thought people would, man. I thought they would stalk him.
I didn't think people would.
You didn't? Yeah, whatever. Moving on. What's next? Here we go. So if you want to sponsor
Fish
the
photo.
show, oh yeah, or and I'll be sure to let you guys know if you want to sponsor the show, you want us to make fun of you, we'll do that for a good rate. So give us a call and we'll do that. So here we go. Fish photo. We got Melissa Smith from Fayetteville with a Wahoo caught on a GT Whistler rigged with ballyhoo. She was fishing inside of the big rock. So good looking fish there, and yeah, man, good looking fish. I don't know about fishing with no shoes on. Like that seems like a little safety hazard to me, but
There's a lot of sharp edges on
Whatever.
a Wahoo.
yeah, right. I'm like, I don't know. It looks questionable. I don't know if you'll lose a toe by doing the Wahoo. Anyway, maybe ask that. Gary, I'll give you questions.
All right.
Anybody ever lost a toe on your boat from wearing full
I'll
clothes?
remember that. I'm writing that down for when I talk to Ben. That's a great one.
Really important. It's
Maybe
gonna
you
be-
should do the interview. That sounds like you're a natural.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, dude, I'm good at this. That's what I do. All right, man. Awesome. So we got through some sponsors, and then I'm going to pitch it over to you to talk about our weekly fishing reports. I know it's a little bit different season right now, but I'm going to pass it over to you and let you tell our audience about that.
Well, yeah, this episode is airing in late October. We do our weekly fishing reports from April through October. And then with the season winding down, we're going to pull back to bi-weekly reports November through March. But we are going to do membership exclusive live events. So we have some live events scheduled during that time that it just doesn't make sense to do weekly reports. I mean, how many times can we tell you to work the bait slow through the water column for trout, and or red drum? So live features that you can only access if you're part of our weekly fishing report membership, whether you're an annual member or a monthly member. You go to fishermanspost.com, you go to member content, you can read all about what we're offering, weekly reports. We're dropping that live show stuff now on these podcasts just to lean up. But we talked to a bunch of captains up and down the coast. It's a great thing. Again, more information, fishermanspost.com, member content.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it's been good, man. It's been a lot of fun doing that. So looking forward to those live events, man. We're gonna have fun. We got them planned out, and it'll be a good time for sure. Might get a little wild, so you might go ahead and get that VIP ticket.
I might say something I regret.
Maybe so.
That'd be great.
Bull crap. I call bull crap, Gary. I don't think you will. No balls.
All right. All right.
All right.
Hey, listen, I'm going to talk with Ben about Wahoo, and then I'm coming back to you for Billy's best takeaway. Again, that's Billy's best takeaway. But right now, it's my pleasure to introduce first-time guest on the podcast. He's helped us out with the fishing schools, but his first-time guest on the podcast. I'm talking about Captain Ben Morris, Southern Run Fishing Charters out of the Wrightsville Beach area. Ben, welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being a guest.
Glad to be here, Gary. Good to see you.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you. We're looking forward to talking about high speed and meat options for Wahoo. But as the tradition goes on the Fisherman's Post podcast, you have 2 questions to get through before we get to the main event. You tell me you're ready. I give you question number 1.
Ready to go.
Question number 1, Captain Ben Morris, why should any of us, listen to anything you have to say about a Wahoo?
Well, I've been charter fishing for about 10 years now. A little bit of that was with the Ocean Isle Fishing Center, most of it. I spent a couple years down in the Florida Keys doing it, worked for Whipsaw Charters up here, and now I run my own charter business. So I've kind of seen a bunch of different ways to do it. We've had some really good days out there, and I base my business around it. So we've caught quite a few of them.
Right on. That is easily an acceptable answer to question number 1. I'm already looking ahead to question number 2. Again, as tradition goes, is a non-fishing related question. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, we're going to be talking about meat options for Wahoo. Your question has to do with meat options. I need you to name 2 meat options for us, for humans, other than pork, beef, chicken, and seafood. You got 2 other meat options other than pork, beef, chicken, or seafood.
Duck.
Right
I
on.
don't know another.
Yeah, you do. It's like a duck.
I don't know. You lost me there, Gary. What's yours?
I was going to say a goose. You could say a turkey. You could say venison. You could say pheasant. You could say lamb. You could say rabbit. But you're on the camera. You know, the pressure's on. I know you'll do much better with the Wahoo report, man. And you were smart. I'll give you a plug. I'm going to go ahead and give you a compliment. Man, I love that your talking point was to begin with how to find Wahoo, because hands down, I think that's whatever fish we're talking about. That's the main question. How do I find it? How do I find it? So I love that that's how you want to kick off your podcast. So I'm in. Tell me about finding a Wahoo. And I guess we're talking about here in the fall time, or I don't want to limit you. Man, you answer the question any way you wish.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, before, we get into the tackle, it doesn't matter if you have the best stuff ever. If you're in an area where they're not there, you're not going to get a bite. So how I find a spot or figure out which direction I'm going to go, we'll start with the fall, winter time, because that's generally the best time to go. Is I want to look mainly for water temperature. I like low to mid 70s is good. And the water clarity too. If it's clear, that's kind of where you want to be. And you can look at that before you leave your house, through Rolf's or Hilton has a good app, Rip Charts, any of that stuff you can look at and kind of determine where you want to go. And you want a combination of those, the right water temperature, the right water clarity to be over some sort of bottom, especially in the wintertime. Those fish are going to hang on a ledge. Mainly I'll start in 150, 160 feet and try to stay in that area. Sometimes I'll get off to 200, 250, but that's about as deep as I like to go. But they're definitely on bottom. That is important. It's pretty much a big king mackerel, a bigger, better tasting king mackerel. Go ahead. Were you going to ask something?
Well, yeah, man, I guess. So when you're saying, I just like to clarify sometimes because I feel like I'm still trying to get it straight in my head. So when you say over top of a ledge or over top of bottom, I mean, out that far, are we talking about relief? Are we talking about depth change? Is that the primary area you target, or is there something else you're looking for out in 150 to 160 on out to 200 or so?
So primarily you want a ledge, especially off of Wrightsville Beach. We have a really good bottom out here, and it's a ledge that runs, miles up the coast and pretty much down to the shoals. And I like to stay right on that. Some guys up north out of Moorhead, they don't really have that same bottom. They're fishing rolling bottom kind of. It's just a big depth change. It's not really sharp like it is here. It'll drop off 10 feet here in, the matter of 200 yards or so, and that's where I like to stay. Now, in the summertime, it's completely different. Your summertime fish are generally out deeper, and they're not really over a hard edge as much, but they're generally in like 250 to 300 feet. And that, when I'm fishing for those, I don't really fish for them much in the summer, but you can. And when you're doing that, you kind of want to find some kind of bait or, something that they're feeding on that time of year, whether it be bonitas, blackfin, flying fish, stuff like that.
All right. So you say the fall is probably the best time for it. And I think you said, forgive me if I didn't get this right, 70 to mid 70-degree water temperature. So,
Yes, sir.
so when do you start getting the most confidence that you can put, say, multiple fish in the boat when the fall season rolls around? Like, I mean, I know that every year the water temperature develops differently, but as a general rule, you start getting excited when?
Well, it's more when the surrounding water gets real cold, like all of the water inshore is 50, 60 degrees. Once it gets really cold, and that water in the Gulf Stream is 74, 75, because those fish are going to be condensed in the Gulf Stream as compared to the summer when all the water is warm and the fish are spread out. That's generally when I start getting excited, usually around November, December, and within 3 or 4 days of the full moon. If all that lines up, that you're going to do pretty good. I don't like fishing on a full moon, but within 3 to 4 days is usually pretty good.
And we're talking about on the front side of the full moon, not on the back side.
Yeah, I like the front side. I've done good on the back side too, but I like front side a lot better.
So I don't know if you have a conclusive answer, if I'm asking you for a theory, but what would be the theory or the answer as to why the Wahoo fishing is better on the front end of a full moon?
Sorry. To be honest with you, Gary, I really don't know that one. But that just seems to be when I've caught more, and I think they're feeding. I think they're feeding in the daytime a lot better. Once you get to the full moon, I think they're eating more at night.
Okay. I mean, I don't know either. It's not like I have an answer in mind, and I'm wondering. I was just again thinking the moon seems to be this mysterious thing.
Right.
So anytime the moon comes up, I like to ask a follow-up question. So if it starts like say November, December, how long does that good late fall winter Wahoo bite last? Typically, in general terms.
All the way through February. We've caught them really good. Right until I'd say March is when it starts slowing down, but you can catch them all the way through now. My favorite months overall to catch them there, November, December, right when it starts to get cold, kind of the change in the seasons.
All right. So then I guess my question is, man, and I understand about looking at, at charts, at ROFs, there's several, and I know that they can give you all kinds of data, not just water temps, but, as you're talking about water clarity, other variables. I'm not an offshore fisherman as in people hop on my boat and I go and I make any decisions. But I'm just thinking if I was that guy, I would love a little bit more insight into how to read those ROFs or what exactly to look for, because I'm guessing there's quite a bit of 70, 75-degree water. And if that ledge is just for miles, like what would get you off of that ledge? What would get you off of that ledge, or what would get you to one part of the ledge versus another part, at least as a starting point? I mean, any insights to help someone navigate a vast expanse and trying to pick out where they at least might want to start their day?
Yeah. So if it's all say 70, 73, 74 degrees, if you can find a spot where there's a change, like a 2 or 3 degree change on top of that ledge, I would definitely start there. But if the whole thing looks the same, once you get out there, that's where, trolling around. The good thing about trolling is you're covering ground. So if you do get out there, go up and down the ledge or go around that area until you see a bunch of bait, or, the water looks good, or you see a rip or something different like that, or until you get a bite. If you get a bite, stay in that area and pound it. Make a few circles on it. That's the best advice I would give. Because a lot of times when you look at that stuff and get out there, it can be completely different than what they showed, so you have to find it. But generally, if it's got the right water temperature and the right water clarity, that's where I'm going to start either way.
All right. And then I think I just have one more question, and that would be, you talked about the fish push out further in the summertime, that they're not right on that same area. And I loved your explanation about winter fishing and about the water being condensed, and that sort of congregates them. And that's perhaps why you like that November, December. So is it just that there's much more right degree water in the summer, and that's why they might push off deeper and not hang out over the same structure they hang out in the late fall, winter?
Yeah, to be honest with you, they're smaller fish in the summer generally. Right off of here at least, the bigger fish are not. They're either inshore or they're migrating. But generally they're smaller fish. I don't know exactly why they stay deeper, but and you can't really go out and target them in the summer. I'm just saying if you were to try to, usually you'll get them deep if you get them at all. It's just a hard fish to target in the summertime. It's more of a wintertime fish for us.
Okay. So I like that you wanted to talk about both meat options and high speed. And I like that we're going to categorize it. We're going to talk about meat options first. So we'll have that conversation and then we'll go over to high speed. But I guess before I cut you loose on meat options, a question came to mind. Are you prepared to do either tactic every time you go out wahoo fishing, or you kind of make up your mind before you go which technique you're going to lean on?
I'm 9 times out of 10, I'm just going to meat fish, generally just because I'm charter fishing and gas is $6 a gallon. So the high speed fishing, you burn a lot more. If I had an unlimited amount of money to spend, I would probably if I look at my charts and I go out there and everything looks right, I'm still going to meat fish. If I don't like what I see and it looks bad for miles, then that's when I'm going to put my high speed stuff out and cover more ground. And that's generally why I do that. High speed is a great way. You can cover 10 miles in less than an hour. So that's generally why I do that, is to find fish. And if I get a couple bites in the same area, I'll generally stop the high speed and put meat out. Now, a lot of people just high speed, and it's very effective. I've never had double-digit fish days on high speed, and I have on meat multiple times. So that's why I do that.
All right, well, let's lead off with meat, man. What do we need to know about terminal? We'll go terminal tackle, like what you have on the boat, and then we'll talk about how you employ that stuff on the boat.
Yeah, so generally I'm fishing 3 or 4 feet of number 9 wire. I think it's 105-pound wire. I like 3/4 ounce egg sinkers on all my stuff, and a long shot of 80 to 100-pound fluoro. I probably put more than most people do. I'll put like 20 yards on there, and that's on top of the wire. And generally using red and black, purple and black, pink's really good, and those kinds of colors for the meat. And generally I'm trolling around 6 to 7 knots. I like to troll a little faster sometimes for the wahoo, 7.5 if it's nice out. I feel like that gets them fired up a little better. But nothing crazy about my spread. I'm running a shotgun or a way back line, 2 long riggers, 2 shorts, a flat line, and a planer. And generally that's the number 4 planer.
All right, so that's the standard setup. And do you have any naked bait out, or is it all skirted? Does it all have some color on it?
No, mine's all skirted. You can run naked. If I'm fishing for tuna, there's always a naked bait out there, but this is a wahoo seminar, so no. Generally, all of it's skirted. I like the Islanders. You can't go wrong with any of those. Sea witches on your long lines, but generally Islanders. I like a blue and purple on my planer rod. That's a good one, especially if they're in there eating the bonita. They tend to like that one a good bit.
And is there a size ballyhoo that you prefer when we're meat fishing?
Yeah, I like large mediums in the winter. Generally because those fish are eating, like I said, eating bonita and blackfin and stuff like that. In the summertime, if you're going to try it, I like to use smalls, generally because the fish are smaller. But I would say my go-to is large mediums always. And
then that number 4 planer, how deep would you say that's trolling? I don't know my numbers and my water depth.
The farther you let it back, the deeper it goes. But I'm generally dropping mine about 20, 30 feet or so, sometimes deeper. But if you get too deep, you're going to get amberjacks a lot. So I try and stay away from that.
And I'm guessing you start a spread, or you start a day with several different colors and pay attention to see if you need to double down or even triple down on a color, or how do you orchestrate it?
Generally, I have a pretty good idea now of what works, and I usually just keep the same colors. If one's getting bit left and right, I'll try and put 2 out. But generally, when I've done that, it hadn't really done any better. So I usually just keep it, black and purple. I'll have some crystal out there, black and red. All the basic Wahoo stuff usually works pretty good as long as you're on the fish.
So I guess my question then would be like, if I'm on your boat and we get out to a spot that you liked, the night before, and we get out there and you still like it in reality, not just in the overnight chart.
Mhm.
So what happens, man? You put out the spread. And to be more clear with my question, like, if we are on the ledge, are you more on the high side of the ledge or more on the low side of the ledge? Are you preferring traveling with current or against current? Like, how do you approach an area once you say, this is where I'm going to put out my spread?
So I'm pretty much, if I just got there, I'm obviously starting inshore and going to pass right over it to the offshore side. But if I'm going north or south, right on top of where it drops off. And I'll usually make a pass going with the current, and then I'll come back going against it, and just kind of see if I like it. If I pass over something with a bunch of bait, or there's bonitas up top, or something like that, or you get a bite, then I'll circle that area, going in from inshore to offshore a couple times, and then go back around, do from offshore to inshore, and just pound it for about 20, 30 minutes. And if I don't get another bite, I'll move on. But if I see something I like, I definitely will. Even if you don't get a bite, I'll stick it out for a little bit just to see, because for whatever reason, sometimes you'll make 6 circles and you won't get any bites on the first 5, and then on number 6 you'll have a triple header. So.
All right, man. So my mic or my earphones must have been playing with me a little bit, and so I didn't quite hear, or if I missed it. So as far as the ledge, if we're dealing with a ledge in, like, say 10 foot of relief or whatever it is, like, are you going parallel primarily with that ledge and staying on a higher low? Are you constantly going, shallow to deep, deep to shallow, shallow to deep, deep to shallow? If you said that, I missed it.
No, I'm pretty much staying over top of it, or parallel is what I'm going to do. And like I said, stay right on top of it. And if it's a ledge running south to north, I'm usually going to work, up the beach first, and then I'll come back down it if I see something I like. And if you mark a bunch of bait or something like that, I will make 5 or 6 circles on it.
Now, how about what
it.
happens on the boat once we get a bite? If we get a bite, we're trolling, say, 7 knots, and we get a bite, and that, it's a Wahoo, so it's screaming. What happens on the southern run?
We're keeping the boat in gear, and we're keeping everything fishing for a little bit longer. The Wahoo are notorious. They're going to run out a bunch of line, and then they're going to turn, especially the big ones, they're going to turn around and come right back at you. And sometimes they'll do it for a good 30 or 40 seconds. And it's important to keep, for your angler, to keep reeling, and for whoever's driving the boat to keep it in gear. At 6 or 7 knots for the first couple seconds, because a lot of times too, you'll get other bites. And then generally I'll slow down to about 3 or 4 knots where we can manage them, and we're usually clearing the planer immediately if it doesn't get bit. And if we can keep everything else out, we'll keep it out if the fish is behaving, because a lot of times you'll get a bite while you're drifting like that. So we're always fishing if we can. If you have to clear it, obviously get lines out of the way. But most of the time we're leaving them out. And as soon as we get that fish in the boat, putting it back up in gear, turn around and coming right back over it. Especially in the wintertime, those fish are usually not alone.
So you basically answered or anticipated one of my questions I was going to ask as part of this discussion about what happens once you have a fish. And that is, as a charter boat captain, you have anglers of different skill level on your boat, depending on the trip. And I was going to ask, like, what are the major no-nos that anglers do on your boat that you avoid them, tell them to do? Just as easily we could say, what do you tell the angler to do? And you've already said, man, you got to keep reeling. You got to keep reeling. Is that number 1 on the list? And if so, is there anything else on the list where this is what you have found novice anglers need to know?
Yeah, the biggest thing is keep it tight. And this is with any kind of fishing. Do not stop reeling. And if you do pick it up, and if you're fighting the fish, stand up. When you're pumping and reeling, when you drop that rod, I see a lot of people make this mistake. They drop it too quick and don't reel, and they'll throw a belly in that line, or they'll put slack in it. And with the Wahoo, I've seen it so many times where as soon as they get a little bit of slack, they're gone. So just, the biggest thing is to keep it tight. And I personally like fighting Wahoo out of a rod holder. I know it's not that sporting, but if you're trying to catch a bunch of them, that rod holder doesn't have any give to it, and you can just sit there and crank. So, you're not giving him any chance. But that's generally how I do it.
All right. I feel like we're coming to the natural end of the meat option conversation, but I'll ask you, because you've got infinitely more experience with meat fishing for Wahoo in general. Anything else that someone who wants to try meat fishing for Wahoo might need to know, a hint, a tip, or a trick to help increase the chances of success?
I would say the biggest thing is just when you find an area that you like or that you have got a bite, keep working that area. If you hadn't had a bite in an hour, but you really think they're there, they're there, keep doing it. Because there's been many days where I've worked the whole area, all day. Hadn't caught anything, but I know it looks right. It feels, there's fish there. And all of a sudden in an hour you have, 6 or 7 fish. So that would be my biggest thing.
So what I said, like that was going to be my last question, but now I thought of something else just in that answer. So is there something that you're seeing on your machine, something you're seeing on your electronics out there? So this is separate from the Roth chart. You're now out there. What are you seeing on your electronics that make you say, I am going to commit to this spot, even though I've been here for hours without a bite? What gives you confidence that any hour it could bust wide open?
Well, mainly the bait. If there's you'll see the big clouds of bait, and you'll see another thing I like to see is the bonitas, which can also be a pain because you're usually going to catch those. But all of that together, and you got the right temperature and your water looks right, that will make me stay in an area. Plus, if you're talking to, it's a little easier if you have people out there on the radio that you can talk to that are north or south of you. If they're not getting any bites either, there's no point really going, wherever they are, if what you're fishing looks good. So a lot of it is communication with other boats too. It's good to have a buddy boat out there that you can talk to.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. And so now we're going to switch over to high speed trolling. So you have determined, we're out there, you have determined, man, it is slow here. I think I need to cover some ground. I like that element of high speed, that you can cover ground. And you have both Billy Thorpe's credit card for gas and Jackson David's credit card for gas. So you have an unlimited gas card. Tell me what we're going to do for high speed trolling.
If you got Jackson's credit card, we're trolling in Bermuda because there's a lot more of them there than here. But so generally on my boat, I'm running 3 high-speed setups, and I'm using either an 80 size reel or a 130. And you do not have to use that big. The only reason I use that is because I like to let a ton of line out to begin with, and they're going to take off a lot more too. But the farther back I can let it, the better. And people get plenty of bites right next to the boat, but I like to let mine way back. I'll have a long or a shotgun, and then I'll have another one about 100 yards shorter, and then the third one I'm going to have like probably 50 yards behind the boat. And as your setups get close, or your lures get closer, the weights are heavier too. So your heaviest weights can be close to the boat. And as far as terminal tackle goes, to understand what I just said, you'll have your main line, which is usually like a 100-pound braid, or 80 to 100-pound braid will be fine, to a big snap swivel, biggest you can get, and that will go to your sinker. And then from your sinker, you have about 60, 70 feet of shock leader, which I usually use 200 to 250-pound mono. And then to that will be another snap swivel to your cable. And I usually use 300 or 400-pound cable. Either one works fine, to your lure. So, and usually on my long, or go ahead.
No, man, keep talking, please.
Usually on your shotgun, or on your long, I'll have like a 12 ounce, or you can have a little more if you want. But I like that one somewhat normal. It's going to be way back there in clean water. So it really does. I don't like that one to be that deep. I like it, a couple feet below the surface. My next one, my middle one's probably going to have a 32 ounce, and then the one closest to the boat be anywhere from 48 to some people use really heavy like 60 stuff like that. I stick with 48. And it seems to work fine.
All right, I'm going to ask a dumb question. Why the heavier weight closest to the boat?
Well, you got more whitewash and all the stuff, all the wash from your prop is going to try and push that lure up, and you're needing a lot more weight to get it down. Plus, you're not having you're at like you would your longer baits. There's a lot more scope out of line, and that's going to help it stay down. It just helps it stay down a little better, closer to the boat, or it'll come up, and you want it down, especially down below that whitewash if you can help it.
All right, and then I followed 50 yards for the close one, and I followed 100 yards in from the long one for the midline.
Mm-hmm.
I believe my people like specifics. So roughly, how far out is that long line? You said a far, far way. What?
Yeah, so I use one. Everybody won't be able to do that, but if you have a 130 size reel, or an 80 would probably be fine too. I like to put it 200-300 yards back there, so a good ways, And keep in mind he's going to run off a lot of line too if you do get a bite on that one.
All right. Again, people love specifics. So if I'm on your boat and you've told me the specific weights, but how about telling me like kind of your go-to 3 high-speed lures that you're going to have behind those weights? People would love to know.
Yeah. So honestly, I like the Islanders. They sell in like Intercoastal or somewhere like that. The pre-made ones work just fine. I'm trying to think. I know there's one that's a big pink one, but I can't remember the dang name of it. But no, mainly just the Islanders with the skirts and all the sinkers under them. They work great. I'm sorry, Gary. I know that's not very detailed. I don't know the exact name of them.
That's all right. You have favorite colors when it comes to high speed?
I do. I like if you can find one that's purple, black, and gold. I really like that. Because if you think about it, the first thing you see on a blackfin when he's coming up is that big gold stripe, and I think that gets a lot of bites. Next would probably be pink. I've gotten a lot of fish on pink and yellow, surprisingly enough.
How fast we going?
I'm usually going to go. A lot of people like to go 17, 18 knots. I find that 12 to 14 knots is really good. That's where I get most of my bites. And you can go faster, but I like 12, 14. And of course, it depends on sea conditions too. If it's going to be rough, you're probably not going to be able to go that fast. But I like 12 to 14. And then when you do get a bite, I like to keep going, for a couple seconds, almost the same as meat fishing. You want to keep the speed up because there's generally another fish. And if you get one on, say, your long line, go to the one that's closest to it and take a couple cranks on it, just kind of jig it. And a lot of times they'll draw another bite. And, once you got 2 fish on and you hadn't had another bite, they're both running, then I'd slow it down to about 6 or 7 knots gradually. But you definitely don't want to come out of gear fast, especially when you're high speed, because that, they could turn around when you do that and you'll lose them. So that goes back to keeping it tight. But that's the way you can do it as you're driving the boat.
Okay. One scenario you mentioned at the beginning was like if the scenario of we're meat fishing, we're just not catching anything, and you decide, you know what, I need to cover some water. I need to try to find fish. So I get that. But if it was our intention to start the day high speed, would you go through the same decision process you go through meat fishing? If it's good for meat fishing, it's good for high speed. You're not looking for anything different when it comes to high speed?
No, not really. That's exactly, the same stuff I would look for. I might start shallower just because, you can cover more ground and get to the break or the Gulf Stream in a short amount of time. Sometimes you'll find them, shallower than you think, 140 feet or so. But no, other than that, I'm still going to stay right on the ledge, looking for bait and good water and that water temperature, but you're just doing it a lot faster and you're covering a lot more ground. Now, if you're going to be high speeding and making a lot of turns, which I generally am not because I'm searching, so I'm going straight for long periods of time, it might not be a good idea to let them as far out as I was talking about. but
Okay.
I'm generally going straight with that.
Okay. And then you said something else that I thought, that's an interesting point. I hadn't really thought about that. And you were saying if the seas are up, then going high speed is problematic because of the speed of the boat and the wave period and all that. Separate from that, what's the ideal conditions for the Wahoo, man? Do you like it calm out there? Do you like it a little rough out there? Or do you like it more than a little rough out there?
I like just a little bit of chop on the water. Flat calm, I've had good days flat calm, but I feel like when there's just a little chop, they bite a little better for whatever reason. I do like a light north wind, a very light north wind. I've caught them real good on. That's generally, in the winter it's north or northeast as long as it's light. But I do like a little chop for sure, just not too calm, obviously.
And if we jump to summer fishing and some smaller fish, it's the same scenario with like meat fishing and high speed, like basically all the same rules apply other than you said you might scale down the size of your ballyhoo on the meat side.
I probably would on the meat side, yeah. And as far as high speed in the summertime, it might be a better way to wahoo fish in the summertime just because there's not as much bycatch. And you're not, summertime there's plenty of barracudas and king mackerel and stuff like that around that you're not generally targeting. So usually you can avoid those with the high-speed lure. And, again, you're having to search a lot farther in the summer to find them. So I would recommend high-speed in the summertime if you're wanting to catch them. But that's a good point.
Okay, man. Well, I think we're coming to the natural end of your podcast. I'm going to say I think I have 2 more questions in mind, but, of course, I retain the right to come up with a third or fourth. The first question is going to be more elusive, I guess. So any insight that you've gleaned about the behaviors of a wahoo, the attitude of a wahoo, the characteristics of a wahoo, anything that you've sort of noted through the years about a wahoo that you didn't really know when you were starting this process of becoming an accomplished offshore angler?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is, like I said earlier, about staying in an area that you like. Even if you just got 1 or 2 bites, when I just started, I would go over a piece of bottom, even if it looked really good, and nothing happened, I'd keep going. Or even if I got a bite or 2, I'd make 1 or 2 more circles, and then say, okay, well, that's probably it, and just keep on going. But now the biggest thing I would realize now is if they're doing that, if you get a bite or 2, put some time in that spot because usually there's more around, and it might take them a little bit to bite, but usually they will. That's the biggest thing that I've found that's helped me the most.
Well, I think that's pretty much going to be my answer to question number 2. And question number 2 is just the more standard interview question, which would be anything else to share with the watchers, the listeners that we haven't covered, any question that I didn't give you to set up, even when you're thinking about the podcast, like, oh, that's a good point. I want to work that in. I mean, you've been consistent with work in space. And so clearly that might be the main takeaway from our podcast. Anything else here at the end to throw out before we say goodbye, Captain Ben?
Man, that's probably going to be it. That, and don't be afraid to go a little shallower sometimes. If you see that water's pushed in the, 140 feet or so, try it. I mean, there's no rules. They have tails, so they can swim wherever they want. But that would be my other one. But the main one is just work an area if you think it feels right.
All right. Captain Ben Morris, Southern Run Fishing Charters, man. I've enjoyed our conversation about Wahoo. Very much appreciate you making some time for us and sharing what you know.
Thank you, Gary. It was good to be here. I appreciate the invite.
All right, man. We'll talk again soon.
All right. Gary, man. Good episode. You guys should know how to go out there and get some wahoo, get some meat in the boat, go fat, not speed trolling. Wait, is that what it's called? High speed trolling.
High speed trolling or slow or trolling meat, actual bait fish. But high speed is all artificial.
Yeah, man. A couple things that I, once again, don't be a slacker. I put that down. Don't be a slacker. Don't let slack get in your line when you're trying to reel these fish in. But then he shared a little thing, let the rod holder do the work. That way you're not, trying to work your body as well. Just put it in there and crank down and reel. So I thought that was pretty interesting because, you know, I always talk about not losing fish. If a captain, in my case, gets me on a fish, I want the best odds of getting in the boat. So
Yes.
no pride
Good
in
for
my
you.
game, man. I'll just put it in the rod holder. So
I have tried to make a when I'm on a captain's boat, I listen to what they say. I follow instructions. I do not come with an ego like I know what I'm doing. I love to be told what to do on a fishing trip. Love it.
yeah, man. Especially they work all that time getting you on those fish, especially out there, man. It's like in the middle of nowhere. Seems like to me anyway. I mean, I know their pay grade's way higher, so but anyway. And then yeah, Jackson's credit card. Let's get that thing on file. Let's put the number on the screen. Where's the captain at?
I think Jackson is we're setting him up to be a sponsor of this.
Yeah, because my credit, you said my credit card, I was like, dude, that's gonna get you like 4 miles off the beach, but not even home, just 4 miles out. You can't even get back on that.
And then we call Cito.
You call Cito, which should be right here, but they're not. Where are they at? Where are you at, Cito? So anyway, but we are thankful for our sponsors. We have Marine Warehouse. Been with us for a long time, having a lot of fun. Can't wait to see where Emmett ends up next. That's going to be fun. And then SRD20.com. Be sure to go to SRD20.com to get all your boat cleaning chemicals and needs. They've been really awesome and sending us some more product. I got the shipping notification, so we'll be sharing some more stuff here in the next couple episodes or so.
Yeah, man, I think we've been fortunate. We've had sponsors that make sense, sponsors that fit well with our mission, you know, and that certainly includes Marine Warehouse Forever and our newest edition, SRD20. Man, I'm happy to have them on board. Hope we serve them well.
Yeah, and if there's anybody listening and you got a company that, you know, this would be a good audience for you, offshore fishing, inshore, nearshore, on the coast of North Carolina, let us know, and we'll see if we can get you in here and make some good jokes about you, make fun of you, make fun of your company, those types of things. You know, have a lot of fun, man. That's why Marine Warehouse sponsors us. They don't need to sponsor us. They just like to see what we can come up with, poking fun at people that own the place. All right, Gary, we'll see you in the next one, man. Appreciate it.
Fisherman.